Thanks, Kim, fellow Toastmasters, and Lisa. The actual title of my speech is Turandot, the Princess and the Roller Coaster, and you will find out the reason for that later. A icy, bloodthirsty princess who wears fabulous clothes, as you can see from the pictures here and pictures there, with long 10-foot trains and big headdresses, and who hurls notes like weapons. What's not to love? The queen in me goes crazy. Puccini wrote Turandot in the early part of the 20th century, and it was first performed in 1926, and he based it upon a Persian fairy tale about a Mongolian princess. He actually used Chinese melodies for the music, and you will hear the Chinese tinkle bells, and you can hear the actual melodies. It sounds Chinesey. And it's one of the reasons it's great. Puccini, I don't know if you know this, was highly influential in movie music in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. He was basically a contemporary of them. And a lot of these big sweeping sounds that you got like it's Gone with the Wind. It's very Puccini-esque. Most of you are already familiar with Turandot, whether you know it or not, because the main tenor aria from it has seeped into popular music. It is used in popular commercials all the time, Nessun Dorma. Even Aretha Franklin sang it at the Grammys. Not quite operatically, but she did it. Turandot is a very interesting opera. The thing that is most notable about it and this aria is Turandot is noted for being a singer-killer. It's brutal. Birgit Nilsson is my favorite of all of the Turandots, and I spoke about her earlier. I don't think Kevin was here by that time, but back in the early days of my speeches, Birgit was spoken about, and she was quite well known as Turandot. I can't imitate her singing, but I can imitate her talking, because she talks very deep, actually. And I heard an interview with her, and she says, you know, I'm very known for the Wagner roles, which are very long, hour and a half, no, 2.5, 3 hours. Very difficult, but the half hour of singing for Turandot is much more difficult. You have to be conscious of every moment of your singing, or you could ruin your voice. And obviously she did a good job, because when she was 65, she still could sing incredible and was blasting out high notes like nobody's business, and not everybody could do that. So she did it real well. She said, Turandot made me lots of money. I made millions from Turandot. I sang it over 300 times, but I would not recommend anybody else to do it, because you have to know what you're doing all the time. It's a killer. And Nilsson was so good in the role because it calls for a really big voice, and boy, howdy did she have one. In the last speech I told you, she could be heard through the 6-foot-thick brick walls of the Metropolitan Opera. She cracked the windows in a Norway church. She shattered a turquoise earring in the audience of a Tehran, Iran lady. And when she was doing Turandot in Ravenna in Italy, it's an outdoor arena. It's huge. And no amplification whatsoever. And about 3 blocks back behind there, they couldn't hear the symphony, they couldn't hear the chorus, but they heard Nilsson singing, and they thought it was a fire drill. You could get right beside her, and it wouldn't sound loud, but you get back in the house, it was weird. And I will be playing an excerpt from this. Her voice does not record well. I listened to about 3 recordings. This is the only one where I really sort of think it gets some of what she had. But they say even today, recordings cannot record a really big voice. One of the other things that's so great about Turandot is, of course, I mentioned already the outfits, the spectacle. I mean, they have the court of the Mongol king. It's gorgeous. It's better than what you would see at a musical. And Turandot's dress, I mean, that would cost more than most of us would spend in a lifetime, certainly me who shops at Value Village. I had a friend of mine that heard Nilsson in Turandot in Seattle back in about 30 years ago when she was at her prime. And he said never before or since had he had the experience of feeling as if he was being pushed to the back of the chair by the force of her voice. It was G-force singing. Which brings me to what we're going to do when we have the setting here tonight, where we're going to play this. We're going to get silly. When you listen to this, you will hear her high notes are scary. And it's like being on a roller coaster. And whenever she's getting ready to hurl one of her expletives, we're going to all raise our hands like we're going down a roller coaster. And you will not laugh when you hear it, because it's pretty amazing. Even with this dinky-ass little ghetto blaster here, it's pretty amazing what she does. And the other thing that's real interesting is that I'm also bringing in one of our other singers that we talked about earlier, Franco Corelli, that gorgeous Italian tenor. And other tenors, when they sang with Nilsson and Turandot, they hit a high C at the end. Well, nobody else could be heard. But he held his own with her. And I heard an interview with the two of them, and he was talking. He said, the first time I sang with the Nilsson in La Scala, she opened her mouth and she scared me. And then when we got to the high note, I was singing, and she kept singing, and I would turn around and said, when is she going to stop singing? And she held that note for a half hour, I think. It just wouldn't, she wouldn't stop. Nilsson and Corelli singing together was one of the big tickets of the 20th century. They both made millions from this. And you will hear why. I'm going to be playing this. It starts out, she's going to be singing something nondescript in this chorus, and then she starts, and it's going to start soaring. And when we get going, nobody is exempt. We all have to raise our hands. We're on the roller coaster. this loop for last because it's kind of heavy duty, but you know, I hope with all the raising of the hand it could make it a little bit more fun. But you know, I think in this day and age, rock and roll and loud amplified music, we forget the thrill of what it could be like before all of that, when you could have a voice that could rock you without even any amplification. And this is, in a house, would be as loud as if she had a rocker's microphone in front of it. Turandot's got all this stuff, this glamour, the dresses, the high notes, the thrill, the spectacle. I think it's worthwhile checking out, and there are a lot of YouTube videos on YouTube that you can check out on Turandot. And Questa Reggio is the name of this aria. Really enjoyed sharing with it. You could tell I really like this. And I hope maybe I sent a little bit of enthusiasm your way. Thank you very much.